He who is not courageous enough to take risks will accomplish nothing in life. So stated the great, unfortunately now we say the late, Muhammad Ali. Good evening and welcome to the Family Forum. I am your host, Dr. J.R.C. Tyler, President of the African American Family Association, and your host for tonight. I want to salute the Urban Addict, who unfortunately cannot be with us tonight, but had a fantastic show, fabulous show on the week prior. And I'm sure those of you that were able to tune in and view the show, you enjoyed the Urban Addict as well as his guest. And we want you to know that if you're interested in receiving a copy of the book that was promoted or at least introduced on the show, we really were not selling the book, but we were talking more about the principles and the subject matter of the book. But if you're interested in receiving an autographed copy, we will oblige you if you simply write to us at the African American Family Association, 7618 South Cottage Grove, Chicago, Illinois, 60619. Chicago, Illinois, 60619, 7618 South Cottage Grove. And then, of course, our telephone number, 773-842-2873. Once again, 773-842-2873. Well, I know that many of you are familiar with this great shot, The Greatest. Now, if you, and we're offering you an opportunity to join in this dialogue tonight, and because I can go on and on about Muhammad Ali. I lived the era, and I know many people like to talk about what they read and heard, and but it is important to understand and appreciate the experiences that you have had in life. And so I want to appreciate your experience tonight. That's right. I want to appreciate your experience as you remember our fallen hero, who is not fallen in our hearts, but yet he still lives larger than life. He was a humanitarian. One of the most remarkable things that I can recall about Muhammad Ali is that he was one who knew who he was before he got there. Now, I have this saying, and I want you to remember it. You are not where you're going unless you stay where you are. You're not where you're going unless you stay where you are. And as a young man born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, who was given the name at birth Cassius Marcellus Clay, would come to learn that he had greatness instilled in him. He had greatness that he was destined to achieve. And the shot that I shared with you, and I'll share it again because I know I just love seeing this. He's standing over the then fallen champion at the fist or at the helm of Muhammad Ali, the former heavyweight champion Sonny Liston. And he had declared, that is the he being Muhammad Ali, he had declared before the fight that he was the greatest of all times. Words have power, thoughts are things. Before he ever won one championship, not the three that he ended up with. That's right, he won the world heavyweight championship title 3 times, the final time being when he regained the championship from Leon Spinks, who unfortunately did defeat Muhammad Ali. I think Spinks had about 8 fights at the time that he fought Muhammad Ali, who did not take the young man seriously. But it opened up the door for Muhammad Ali to accomplish at that time what no one else had accomplished, and that is to win the heavyweight championship 3 different times. Well, he saw himself great, and I think this is one of the things that is missing from the lives of a lot of our young people today, not just the young males, not just the young females, but is missing from the development stage of our young people. They don't see themselves going past where they are, and unfortunately there's no internal effort that will force them or will cause them to strive for the greatness that they have seen. How do you remember Muhammad Ali? As a Chicagoan, I remember the Ali Trolley that was on State Street during the years of Ali's exile from boxing, and so he became an entrepreneur in other sorts by having the Ali Trolley where burgers were sold, and the history there right at the at the bridge or the mouth of the projects on 51st Street. Also, you might recall that he was that great champion of the community who would ride through the neighborhoods and in the streets of Chicago and in other communities and would throw money out of his automobile. He was the individual that was not that was so unselfishly and so willing to give of himself that he would stop or pause wherever he was to take a picture with someone that he may not have even known. So if you have a memory, an appreciation, a thought of this great man, Muhammad Ali, we want you to give us a call and share that thought with us. And we do have a call, and we want you to call in. You see the number on the screen, area code 312-738-1060. That's area code 312-738-1060. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the Family Forum. If you don't mind, please give us your name, then your comment or question, please.
Joe, I want to comment on Muhammad Ali religion. When you look at Muhammad Ali, he was the most famous Muslim in the world. And when you see how he got along with other religions, people, like the other faiths, like Jewish people in particular, like there was some people that he got along with well, somewhat well. Like we look at Howard Cosell, you look at Billy Crystal, and a lot of people think that Jews and Muslims just hate each other. And that don't have to be the case, whatever. People can have some type of common ground where they can meet and be able to get along and have a civil dialogue. That's one of the things that really impressed me about him in terms of him being one of the, when you look in terms of his religion, how he carried himself.
Yes. Well, and so, certainly there's no argument that he may been the most prominently known in contemporary times as far as the American Muslim is concerned. I don't know if he's the most famous in the world. Neither am I debating your claim. I'm just saying that he's certainly.
Well, you can't dispute this. He's one of the most famous Muslims in the world. No ifs or buts about that.
Well, we could take him outside of Islam, Brother Joe, and say that he is one of the most recognized faces in the world and most known. Then
okay, we could say that.
Yeah, I would.
We could say that. But
I would certainly support that idea because that's been proven, that's been established that he was one of the most recognizable men. And what a lot of people don't know about him, Joe, and you did bring that out, he was a humanitarian. See, it's okay to be principled. It's okay to have a standard that may differ from others, but then you respect the principles of others as well. I mean,
I want to ask you this question, okay? If he wasn't conflicted with Parkinson, do you think he could have been a U.S. Senator?
I don't think that he would have. I don't think that he would have resigned himself to that. And let me give you my honest answer. I think he could have been a U.S. Senator if he wanted to with Parkinson's. Now, of course, I'm not speaking of him running for office in the later deteriorated state. But Muhammad Ali suffered with this disease for decades, and so.
If he did not have the Parkinson disease, all right, I just say we could, put that on the table, because he was a quite elegant speaker because he spoke at Harvard.
Well, not only was he an elegant speaker, he was an intelligent man.
Yes.
So look at the intelligence. He was in one interview, and the broadcaster used a word. They think the word was truculent, and he said, truculent. He said, well, I'm that whatever it is if it's good. He was asked on another occasion.
I just had to bring that out. I think he was. Somewhere in some reading or something like that, they said he had no more than a sixth grade education, but he had a brilliant mind.
Well, his teacher had no more than a third grade education. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had, who was the teacher, who was the initial teacher. Now, later Muhammad Ali started to follow after, or I shouldn't say follow after, but had another spiritual leader other than Elijah once he left us. He was not a member of the Nation of Islam after
Elijah Muhammad passed away
after
sometime.
Elijah Muhammad, but he was true to his religion.
He sure was.
But you cannot forsake the womb that bore you. And Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, had a third grade education. But wisdom comes from above, and I do want to finish this statement. Also, integrity, because he was an honest man.
Sort of brought him into the Nation of Islam.
Brother, please repeat that. I didn't hear you.
What I said, I thought Malcolm X was the one that initially brought him into the Nation of Islam.
Yeah, he introduced him. He was certainly interested through the excitement, and some would say he was recruited by Malcolm X or Malik al-Shabazz. It's stated there, but he was not his teacher. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the teacher.
Somebody else a chance to make a comment. Take care.
Thank you so much. So since you put that on the table, let us continue on that thought. Take no or make no mistake about it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was his teacher, as he was the teacher of the late Malcolm X, as he was the teacher of Minister Louis Farrakhan, and of so many others, even Wallace Dean, who is the leader of another group of Muslims, and here in America. The point being that wisdom, and this is why I want to take it, because I think we put a lot of emphasis on education. Muhammad Ali had integrity. He was a man that did not shy away from the truth. In front of cameras and in front of microphones, he was willing to state his standard and back up his principles with his actions. And you don't see a lot of that today. And so he was in an interview, and something was said that may have been over his head or something that he didn't understand at the time. But he was quick to say, I didn't say I was the smartest. He said, I didn't say I was the smartest in the world. I said I was the greatest in the world. And so knowing who you are, and, without shying away from that, I know we have already either recanted or heard the statement by the character in the Clint Eastwood movie Dirty Harry, a man should know his limitations. And that's part of wisdom, knowing your limitations, knowing just to what extreme, just knowing where your boundaries are. And so Muhammad Ali, in many cases, knew what he was born and destined to be. He was a great humanitarian outside of the ring. Even when he was champion, he gave. He gave of himself. And he set an example. When he said, I am the greatest, he wasn't just declaring that first person singular, that as a man, that he was greater than everyone else. But he understood that the men like him and those who were in his image, that is, the black man in America, the image of that man as portrayed was always derogatory, was always negative, and he would be the first to point out that everything that identified with righteous and upright was considered, white. If you lie and it's a terrible lie, why would you tell that terrible black lie? But if it's a lie and it's the one that can be excused, that's just a little white lie. And so, he made those comparisons out of the social norms of that day to identify how there was a certain type of subconscious brainwashing that was taking place in the minds of those who looked like him. And so when he began to say, I am the greatest, those of us that were in that era identified with him, and we understood that he wasn't just fighting for us, just as it was when Joe Louis fought in Germany and fought Max Schmeling, and when he was in Germany, it wasn't Joe Louis that was fighting for Joe Louis. He was fighting for America. Everyone, even the white Americans, identified with Joe Louis as an American, even though when he returned home, he did not receive the honor of an American, even though that the racist and the systemic the prejudiceness and the systemic racism still existed in America. He made a statement that all or many people identified with. And so the same can be said of Muhammad Ali. He lived a life and made a statement that many wanted to identify with. So he's a great man. I admire the fact that he was one that was able to tell the truth, and he was one that was able to hold persons or people accountable for their words, for their actions. Yes, he spoke at many universities, and I believe he was at the feet or on the steps of one university where they were, talking about him being a draft dodger. Why wouldn't he go to the war? Why wouldn't he fight? He said, why should I go thousands of miles to fight the Viet Cong? The Viet Cong is not my enemy. You're my enemy. And he was talking to a Caucasian individual. He said, you call me the N-word right here in America. Why should I go thousands of miles? The Viet Cong never called me that. This is where I have my struggles. That this is where my challenges are. Now, it wasn't it wasn't to present that he was prejudiced and didn't want to go because he didn't feel that even though he did feel that the war was certainly not something that he prioritized. His original objection was, first of all, he had been already declassified as someone that was eligible to even fight in the war. Many people forget that, and that's a thought or that's a truth or a reality that's not often brought out. Many people forget the reality that when he was initially drafted, they rejected him. And it was unheard of, especially when you had so many other in a pool to pull from. Why would you bring up a man who's been rejected and reassess as to whether he's eligible, and then to your convenience say yes, he is eligible? But the man said, I'm a minister in the Nation of Islam. I have a conscientious objection to going to the war. And it took 3 years out of his life before the Supreme Court was able to say to that man, you're absolutely right. You do not have to go, and you should not have been held to this judgment for 3 years out of your life. But nevertheless, he redeemed himself. We have another caller. We're going to welcome you to the Family Forum. Caller, welcome to the Family Forum. If you don't mind, give us your name, then your comment or question, please.
This is Joe. I want to make this one quick comment. You was talking about when he didn't join the military, and people referred to him as a draft dodger, and I think this is very, very important. People in the military respected Muhammad Ali. Because why? Because he didn't disrespect them. Because whatever he said, it didn't. It was no type of backlash. Because the people in the military say, "Hey, he never disrespected us as well."
Thank you so much, Joe. You're absolutely right. So, also, Muhammad Ali. One of the quotes that I enjoyed with Muhammad Ali, or from the lips of the man, was the man who is the same at 50 as he was at 20 had wasted 30 years of his life. And Joe and others of you that are watching this program, so many of us have the same mindset. And when I say us, I'm talking about humanitarians or mankind. So many have the same mindset that they had 30 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so they were where they were going even then. And, let me give you an illustration. I know of an individual that used to hang out with the boys, and they would get high. They would, party, and they would hang out late and, do various things that were entertaining to the flesh in their teens and young adult years, 17, 18 years, 19 years of age. And some 40 years later, many of those young men had gone on for, to do other things. They had other careers, other professions. First did one thing and then another. Some died, some got ill. Different things happened to them. But there were a few. There were a few who 40 years later were still going to the same corner, hooking up, wondering how it would be for them, what way could they get together to appease the flesh. And that was their life. They were doing at 59 years of age what they were doing at the age of 19. So one would say at 19 they were already where they were going. Now this is not to say from a geographical standpoint, because many of the other individuals that became or that went on to professional or certain careers in other areas of accomplishment lived in the same neighborhood. They didn't move out of the neighborhood. They didn't go to Paris, didn't change their name, didn't do anything, but their mind developed. Their mind did not stay at the age of 19. And so many individuals are in an arrested development today. And so that quote from Muhammad Ali, the man at 50 who is the same as he was at 20, have wasted 30 years of his life, have always impressed me. Another great statement that Muhammad Ali had that also inspires me is that I don't have to be what you want me to be, and I'm not afraid to be what I want to be. And if there's a young man, young boy or girl, or even a mature male or female that's watching this program today, it's never too late. As Billy Crystal, one of his presentations about 20-some years ago, if not longer, where he was honoring Muhammad Ali, he, when he was talking about coming back from his loss to Leon Spinks and how he was going to get back in the gym and how he was going to run and do his push-ups and his sit-ups and how he was going to prepare himself and condition himself. He said, I want you to know that it's never too late for you to start all over again. It's never too late for you to continue to move forward in your life. And so if you have despair, if you have any hopelessness, if there is someone that is, right now questioning whether or not they have the will to move forward, or if it's too late, you have a certain age. I'm reminded of an older man. As a Christian, I look back to the biblical character by a young man by the name of Moses, who at the age of 40 tried to, under his own power, deliver his people, but it was not to be. For the next 40 years, he took a humble position on the backside of a mountain, tending sheep. He became a shepherd. It wasn't until he was at the age of 80 that God used him to deliver his people from bondage. He used this man Moses for the next 40 years. And the scripture teaches us under this man Moses that at the age of 120, when he died, and you have people even now today that are living to that age, so it's a reality. At the age of 120, he had this testimony that his eyes were not dim, nor his natural strength abated. So what are you saying? I'm saying that just as Muhammad Ali spoke to himself and declared that he indeed is the greatest, when he knocked out Sonny Liston in this great shot, when he knocked Sonny Liston on his back, and when he stood over him, you know what he's saying? His mouth is poised. What he's saying, get up, sucker. Yeah, he had taunted that man so much. He had to force the man to stand up and do battle. Sometimes you have to rightfully take what's yours. You have to engage the adversary. I know the scripture says resist the adversary and he'll flee from you. I know so many of us, our mothers and our fathers have taught us, if you see danger, go the other way. And all of those are great survival suggestions. But the reality is, in order for you to overcome fear in your life, you must face your fear. Muhammad Ali was not unwilling to face his fear. Therefore, when it came to the criticism and the thought of him losing or having the title stripped away from him and his belt taken, when it came to the reality that as a young man he comes home with the Olympic gold medal, heralded around the world as the Olympic gold medal winner in boxing at the Olympics, but yet when he came home in 1960, here you have the establishment that bore him, calling him less than human, mistreating him, not even allowing him to eat in their restaurants. Well, those were things that he had to face. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He became more emboldened in his convictions, more emboldened in his commitment that he would say, yet and still, regardless of how you see me, it doesn't matter. It's how I see myself, and I see myself as the greatest. So I say to you, as I say to one, I say to all, God made you, and he didn't make any junk. God made Muhammad Ali, but Muhammad Ali allowed himself to take on the mind of greatness, and therefore he fulfilled his dream. And I say to you tonight, this evening, honor yourself. Become all that you can be. Good night.